Don't be fooled by the tractors that I got. I'm still Gabe from the farm.
Do you know what? If you're Tom, I've given you a fucking hello there, so I don't care. And we've also slagged your arms off.
If you need to take a wee and it's a small one, is it a wee?
Well, that's also I'm from Scotland, so my response to that is just shut the fuck up.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Neutral Cider Hotel, where the towels are fluffy, the shower's gel has been dutifully replaced, but when sometimes the internet is a little bit shit. My name is Gabe Cook. I'm the ciderologist, a self-appointed cider expert, consultant, an educator, judge, and author of a book, Ciderology, available now. But I'm also the guy who kind of forgot to press record properly the other week, so we might have lost a little bit of a show. Oops. Sorry, everyone. But believe me, I have been self-flagellating more than that albino guy from the Da Vinci Code. I've been pretty down on myself.
I have a name.
It's oh, really? I've forgotten. Oh, it's you don't flagellate at all, do you, Martin? Anyway, joining me as ever to provide their own unique slant on the world of cider, and surely to give me some modicum of grief today, it is Mr. Grant Hutchison and Martin Goodwin-Sharman.
Hello.
Hello.
How we doing, chat? Grant, how's your week been?
It's been pretty good. Very busy. Very busy.
Yes.
Packing.
Yeah.
I packed up all my cider.
Of course, you're moving house.
We're supposed to be moving in about 3 weeks. Probably might
3
have
hours
moved by the time this is out. Well, yeah. The first thing I packed was my personal cider collection, because well, obviously because it's super important, but also the one thing I do have lots of is bottle boxes. So I just brought them all back from my storage, put them all in the hallway, and I was like, that's the first thing I could pack, is all my cider. So that's all been tucked away. Not sealed, just in case of emergency. But I've been well. I did have one thing I wanted to discuss.
Oh, yeah, do.
Oh,
We're going to do that now. We're going to have our chat now.
Yes, chat.
yeah, don't intro me. Go on.
Yeah, Martin, no one can. So Martin's probably been working in a pub and stroking a cat this week. I'll summarise it for you. There we go.
Or not.
Or not. Oh, fuck, shit, yeah, of course.
Also, nothing to say from it. No, go on. Let's make you feel bad when I come around to it. No, tell us your important thing, bud.
I wasn't going to tell you anything. I was going to ask your humble opinion.
Go on.
Opinion.
No,
I've been thinking recently about mulled cider, and I wanted to know what you guys thought of that, and whether, well, first of all, just your general thoughts on it, but then your thoughts on what type and what quality of cider is okay to use in a mull.
Okay, Gabe, you going?
Yeah, man. I like mulled cider considerably more than I like mulled wine. Nothing to do with the fact of the New Year's party at my friend Anthony's house circa 2000 and I'm going to say 3, when I did vomit all over their kitchen, and then was horrifically sick the next day. And I'm not going to go down that road anyway. So it's the alcohol in mulled wine is too much. It's too intense, and so having the lower ABV, and it's just a nice, gentle, warming drink. Have it cut with a little bit of juice or even a little bit of orange juice, and then with the spice mix, that's up to you. Personally, I quite like cardamom. I like more of like the chai experience than the full-on Christmas cake. But yeah, and especially, with the multitude of outside events that there are at the moment, a nice and lovely mulled cider is a great thing to have to hand.
So there's a quiet horse in the
there was
distance.
a very quiet horse of knowledge there. More of a whimper. I'd quite possibly. Oh, sorry, producer Scott. What does mulled mean? Okay, so this is probably stateside. I think you call this wassail, basically, right? So warmed, spiced cider, alcoholic cider. To mull is to warm something with the addition of spices, classic spices like sort of cinnamon and nutmeg and these kinds of things. So a very seasonal drink during these chilly times in the Northern Hemisphere. Southern Hemisphere, of course, it's bloody roasting right now. So there you go. For all our fans in Peru and South Africa. Actually, Peru's Northern Hemisphere. Brazil.
Well, I personally just hate it. Like I really don't like it at all. But I love that it gives people so much joy, and it's part of their kind of like winter tradition. It's one of those where it's like, for a lot of people, it's that kind of like mulled cider, mulled wine. It's kind of like the Coca-Cola advert of like, as soon as you go into a pub and you see an urn there on the counter and you can smell it, it's like, oh, it's going into winter now. It's like that sort of big thing. But for me, I fucking hate the taste of it. I hate chai. I hate spice. I just hate it.
But what do you really think?
Yeah, no, but I also going back to the question of like the quality in cider, I think the same with cooking with beer or wine or anything. The good stuff you use goes on into the finished product. So if you use shit mulled cider, you won't hide it with spices. And obviously you'll lose stuff in cooking it. But if you have a really nice cider and you warm it and you use spices, it's a very nice cider that's warmed and spiced. So use good shit if you're going to do it at home. Don't go for the cheap stuff. And find flavors you like. I know a lot of people just buy the spice mixes, but if you like, say, anise and aniseed and that, just a couple stars more in a big kettle, it completely changes it. So find what you like and just get on it.
Sounds like you've drank quite a lot of it for something that you despise.
Well, for someone who's shitting on pubs, it turns out to be quite a big thing in pubs. You said you're glad they're all closed when we were stopped recording.
Well, they're not closed up here, Martin. They're not closed up here, are they? Because we took action about 4 weeks ago.
Oh, competent government.
That's the first time I've been slagged for having a competent government.
Well, I can't throw anything like worse, can I? Because ours is shit. Spoiler alert for you guys. We're going to be in the future now, but right now, everything's shit. But yes, anything else to add with the mulling?
No, that's it. Let's move on.
Moving briskly on from mulled cider to sparkling cider. And I spotted a little post from Cider George. Anybody around the world who doesn't know, he's a very, very nice young man from Somerset who he's a very good graphic designer and all-around good cider egg. And he posted the fact that he tasted a cider from a supermarket called Aldi, which is a value supermarket chain. I think it would be the best way.
We've mentioned them before.
We have, of course. And this is they've released a Twisted Tree sparkling cider, full cork and wire, 5.5%, $2.99. Now, it just interested me, and I was going to check the duty level, but even though I'm not that sad, I'll look in a minute. About how could you create something like that for such a what I would consider to be quite a low price? And the comments were quite interesting. That some people were saying, great that it's at that price because that makes it accessible rather than being sort of out. Pricing, and there was some sort of language around cider becoming too posh and wine-like, and so I just thought it was quite interesting that a cider is being made sort of commercially by a mainstream third party for Aldi, and at a price point. What do you guys think?
I mean, yeah, it's difficult. I think it's good. I think it's
guys.
Well, it's. I think it's a good thing that 750 ml sparkling cider has been sold somewhere that it wouldn't normally appear, and I think it's good that it might just alert people to the fact that exists and that's a thing. But $2.99. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how they're doing that. I don't know. I actually don't know how they're making that cider for $2.99. I mean, you know, the bottle, the cork and cake, the cork and wire, the cider, the duty. I'm struggling to understand it, but I actually had it. I bought it from Aldi, and it's fine.
Oh, was it?
It's fine. It's fine. I mean, it's, you know, there's nothing really wrong with it, which is what I expected. You know, it's not a cider that you would. It's not a cider you're going to deconstruct and, you know, sit and talk about the complexities in it, because
doesn't that pack format sort of insinuate that, though? If it is presenting itself as like a finer product, isn't it welcoming that? If it's a premium, say, I know the price isn't there, but if it's mimicking that, it should be kind of anywhere near that. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. But is it trying to appeal to us who feel that, or is it trying to appeal to people who are not used to that format and just maybe want to venture into it and give it a go? And you know, I mean, whether it's maybe just a 500ml, a cider that normally goes in a 500ml bottle and they've just put in a bit extra. I don't know.
I'll tell you what, though, I know for a fact that it's built as a product, so that people that are related to us go, oh, he likes cider. No, he likes the fancy stuff. And then they buy that. So this is going to be the Christmas of Neutral Cider Hotel, swamped with this. I'm torn with it as well, in that, like, I find sort of the what's it called again? The sort of economy of scale with cider and like beer as well. Those big producers can make it cheaper and it makes it more accessible. So like Brewdog, I think having Punk IPA everywhere cheaper is a great gateway to get people involved. So that side's nice. But if we were a wine podcast, would we be talking about £4 Sauvignon Blanc and how that's good? Or would we be going, actually, that's the maker can't actually make enough on that? Like what's the good and bad of it kind of thing?
The place I'm actually coming back to in my head, having actually thought about it, which I hadn't done until about 45 seconds ago, is that, you know, if it was in a 500ml bottle, then it would probably be £1.50. So it's, you know, proportionally for the volume that there is, it's costing more. It's maybe not as much as it possibly could or should expect, but the fact that there is a cider being presented in that format in an accessible way, and if it gives somebody the opportunity to try it and they enjoy it and they want to explore maybe more bigger bottle ciders and then go down that road, then why not? Yeah, I think it can only be a good thing, and it's obviously reflective of something that's happening in cider in the UK and all around the world.
Yeah.
That cider is being presented this way. So I think, if nothing else, it's a great reflection of the changes that are happening in cider category in this, and a move to, I hate the word premiumization. Just said it, sorry, but to add extra value to our drinks. Anyway, that was disgusting. 38-year-old man in Devon. Anyway, moving on to something slightly more positive, or at least trying to show some positivity. Martin, tell us what's happening with bottle shops at the moment.
Yeah. So I went on to our Twitter and Instagram. That's Neutral Cider Pod at Twitter and Neutral Cider Hotel on Instagram, and basically asked for bottle shop recommendations for the lockdown. So in the UK, we're currently in a lockdown situation. And it was really important for me, looking at it, all the people getting involved in cider, the last big lockdown in the UK, in England, sorry. And I just wanted to get people's shop owners what their ciders are, and customers what ciders they like from them, and just reel through them quickly just to give them a shot. So Andy May on Twitter said, give Susie and Chris a shout out. Fram Ferment, they've got a cracking selection. Caledonian Cider recommends that too. Tom out of Wilding, and it's not the Wilding that we're thinking of, it's a very small guy who's just happened to got the same name.
Well, he's a tiny guy. He's like
tiny man.
a micro man. Is he like
massive forearms, but no weight to him whatsoever? But he says,
hang on, isn't he Wildling Cider?
No, he's Wilding as well.
Oh, I'm not sure.
He's a guy that's making cider.
Do you know what? If you're Tom, I've given you a fucking hello there, so I don't care. And we've also slagged your arms off. So if this ain't you, who cares? But Tom says, Art and Craft London is a great shop. No, he actually said Art and Craft London is a great. So I've just added shop there. Sup. There we are up shop on Insta. They say their house favorite is the Mayflower. O'Brien's Bottle Shop, they sell only British, and the best of Pilton, Starvecrow, and Oliver's are their favorites. Teresa Undine, I'm going to butcher that, I'm sure, but she recommends Salthouse E4. Helen Ann Smith says the wonderful Good News Drinks and Pop and Hops. Scrattings is legit. There's no note who said that, but it's probably someone. Cucumber Lodge recommends Edinburgh's The Jolly Judge and Brauhaus. Affinity Brew Co. say that they're slinging Pilton. Pulp are praising Cider Shack Limited in Yeovil. Sheffield's Hop Hideout are repping the best of British as well. And for me, Two Belly and Beer Necessities if you're in Bristol. Clapton Craft and Hot Burns and Black if you're in London. And Southampton have Unity's Tap Room with a fucking banging cider selection. So should be enough for you to get your fix in lockdown.
Bravo. Well said. Good rundown, Martin.
Yeah, really good rundown.
Except the middle bit where I got that guy's name and called him a fuck, I guess.
You can't see.
I mean, that's going to...
Can you read that?
Oh, is that Wildling? Yeah, there we go. It's come into focus just after about 14 seconds there.
That's the delay.
Does it actually say Wildling?
He is Wildling Cider, yeah.
There is someone Wildling Cider as well, yeah.
Called Tom.
Okay, so Tom Wildling. Jesus.
Oh, Christ.
Fucking hell. Here we go. I've had a sip of cider. I'm fucked. All right, Wildling. Well, move on, lads. I tried to do a nice thing for bottle shops.
No, that was a really nice thing. That was a really good thing. I think that was great. Can I just mention Beer Zoo as well in Portobello in Edinburgh, because they've got a really, really great selection of cider for anyone in Scotland who's looking for something to buy.
I'd also like to mention that www.discovercider.com is also trying to champion and celebrate retailers and pubs during the moment too. So there is a fairly hefty list of various cider providers on there, many of which Martin just mentioned, but a whole heap more. Let's just keep trying to celebrate those people who are giving us a fantastic drink. But now, everyone, it's time to get on to the news. And so now here at the Neutral Cider Hotel, it's time for the news. Martin Goodwin Sharman. 'Tis the season to drink Perry, I do believe. What's it all about?
I was just going to say the title, to be honest. You've kind of taken that.
Okay, moving on.
The Guardian have posted an article called "'Tis the Season to Drink Perry," where they explain probably the most misunderstood of drinks in our sort of British drink culture, and they pick out a list of their favourites for you to try, and one of them is Flaky Bark, single variety Perry from Ross on Wye, and another one that I've definitely had is Oliver's Pet Nat Perry 2019, and there's Once Upon a Tree, Butford and Newton Court on there as well. So just good to see it, really, being promoted and being spoken about, because it's one that we've talked about here, and guests have said it as well, where it just doesn't get the recognition it deserves.
Yeah, it's well, as you say, we've drunk and talked about this a little bit, and it's a magic drink, and it's something that's really special that we have a unique and small culture here. I'm just looking in the below the line comments, which on any newspaper is a dangerous thing, especially in the Guardian. It's pretty feral. And somebody who's aptly named a wine bore is their handle. is to say to them not to forget the likes of Eric Bordelais in Normandy. So there are these regions, these very small micro kind of regions of Perry around Northwest Europe, and it's just it's magic. I think it's a magic thing, and it's just awesome.
Isn't that just typical Guardian though? For it's about British Perry, and someone goes, "Oh, you should mention the other one that I really like." It's like, yeah, no, we get it, but just trying to get people on a journey, mate. Fucking hell, you don't have to prove you know. They don't know. That's why they're on a new Perry article. Like, fuck off, Wineball. Fuck off.
Yes.
And that's how to invite the wine community within to cider. Employ Martin Goodwin Sharman.
Everyone's welcome here.
Everyone's welcome except that one guy. Fuck him. Fuck you.
There we go.
It's probably Eric Bordelais. I mean, that's what I would do if I was Eric Bordelais. I would go and Google every Perry article and be like, actually, do you know who's the best? Eric Bordelais. Cool.
God.
All right.
Do you know the best thing?
So you just told Eric Bordelais to fuck off, Martin. What? Go on.
The best thing about Eric Bordelais is that he's in my book, Ciderology by Gabe Cook. He gets a whole two-page spread, and in fact, Weinbauer is right. The Poiré Granite that he mentions is absolutely banging.
It's lovely. Don't get me wrong, but the whole point of that article is like, hello, we're going to introduce you to something. So I hate the snobbishness, but his fucking Perry is lovely. So do drink it. So I'm torn.
You're having like a Gollum moment.
For the stupid wine balls.
Oh my God.
Brilliant. So add that to the list alongside Cher.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's a good one. I think that's a good Gollum.
Please, Martin, please, for the good of humanity, could you try and sing If I Could Turn Back Time as Gollum?
I had to do like a run up then.
Oh, yes.
Oh, if I could turn back time. I don't know actually the lyrics past that.
If I could find a way.
Well, yeah, no. Oh, well, it's done now.
I could find a way, precious.
That was
Just for the record, yeah, that wasn't me. Okay, now.
Anyway, back to out of Middle Earth and to planet Earth. In fact, how do you follow that? I was going to talk about something really, really dull, which is that cider has been once again picked up by the health lobby in the UK as the standard bearer for the evils that alcohol can hold. With, to be fair, with some fair justification in this case, that cider is still the cheapest unit of alcohol that you can buy in the UK, and they cite the example
England
of
and Wales. England and Wales.
Well, thank you, preempting. I meant for that to happen because. At 19 pence per unit of alcohol for a 2.5 litre bottle of 7.5% alcohol was only $3.49. Yeah.
Wow.
But so the drive of that group of the Alcohol Alliance is to introduce minimum unit pricing, which probably, dare I say, requires a...
Do you not remember we did this?
Oh, have you already done it before?
Well, you made me talk about it with Scotland.
Yeah, and it was really depressing.
Well, there we go.
Yeah,
it was such a riveting topic the first time around that I've obviously decided to bring it up again. So minimum unit pricing. Well, we don't need to say much more about whether we like it or not, because we've already done that quite.
Yeah, but I didn't know it was coming up again in England and Wales as something that people want to happen. I guess it always will.
It's been on the radar, and there's been a push for government to introduce it from certain quarters, largely from the health lobby. And we discussed the sort of the pros or cons, but again, it's just sort of front of line. And I'm almost tempted to bring in a section called the news item where cider is brought into disrepute, because there is pretty much one of those every single week, normally gathered from the trawlings of the Google alert for cider and other words that I have. But maybe we shouldn't be celebrating where cider name is tarnished. Neutral Cider Hotel is all about championing the good stuff. So why don't we move things on?
But that's the one thing about that minimum pricing is that it kind of does champion the good stuff. That is one thing that does come with that, because it kind of obliterates the really cheap shite market.
That's true. It's an interesting government intervention into the marketplace, which makes it a much different tactic from taxation. Anyway, this has got very, very boring.
Grant, he was going to move on, and you went, actually, do you want to talk about... Do you want to talk about how good it is for me selling premium cider?
I know. Christ.
Oh, God.
What a boring cunt.
Yeah.
Right. Well, here's my news story.
Do it in a Gollum voice.
Do you know?
Give
I've
it a
not
go,
even
at
seen
least.
all the Lord of the Rings films.
You're scared of waking up the baby, aren't you, with your Gollum voice?
If I can use that as an excuse, then yes. And I want to talk about your new book cover, Gabe.
Hey. It looks awfully familiar, that logo, doesn't it?
It looks a little bit familiar.
It does look a little. It's like somebody swiped a glass from the cabinet at the Neutral Cider Hotel, slipped it into their pocket, and gave it to their designer, possibly, which absolutely was not the case. The designs were happening concurrently, I swear. I didn't actually want the glass. I wanted to have something considerably more esoteric. Well, no, the antithesis. I wanted to have like just sort of shapes or lines or something really kind of minimalist or kind of avant-garde.
Like the Yves Pomeau label.
Oh, yes. Yeah, which that's a very, very nice link there, Grant. Thank you very much for getting me a bottle of that. And I sampled it quite heftily. It was my birthday present, Martin.
Okay, good. I thought that's why I was quiet. I didn't say anything.
It was a gift. It was a gift. No, it was a gift from Ezra straight to you.
Oh, sorry, it was a gift from Ezra. Oh, Ezra,
your birthday present was a book that I signed for you because I thought you should have a book signed not by you. I thought it would be appropriate that you owned a book that you didn't sign.
To Gabe, happy birthday. We thought you should. The word that is next written it looks very much like a four-letter word.
I scribbled it out.
Yeah, it's scribbled down. Thought you should own a signed book that you didn't write. Lots of love, Grant, Chase, Sula, and Freddie. Thank you very much. It's a really interesting book, actually. The proceedings from the first annual Wild and Seedling Pomological Exhibition. They could have got a shorter title, but there we go. And it is a recording of a whole load of apple varieties that are ostensibly, as it says, wildlings and seedlings, but have then subsequently been given names. Now, I know that we've done the Apple name game, but there's some beauties in here. Go Logic Shop. Basically, they've just given names to apples. Some are slightly more sort of formulaic than others. Heavy Cropping Red, for example. Somebody
that's my stage name.
Yeah. Never Sing... What have we got? Richmond Pink, Porcupine Wine. That's a nice one. Screeching Weasel. Oh, isn't there a band? Isn't that a band? Let me know I have it.
Oh, God, yeah.
Lol.
Let's move on from this lovely intimate present onto why the fuck you've just stolen our logo for your book.
Right, yeah. It was non-intentional, non-driven by me, but you know, it's just linking together all of the various tentacles of the ciderologist.
Continuity, yeah. You've got to give people something they recognise, right, Gabe?
That's right. A glass. Yeah. So, but you know, it's a. Do you know what it is? It's a sign of quality. That's what it is.
Well, it's better than the first one, which was like an apple, but like.
Did that have the mustache on the front of it?
It does not have a mustache on it.
Okay.
No, not that. Not the first. Not Ciderology.
Producer Scott is holding up Ciderology by Gabe Cook, which is still available.
Unsigned.
And it's showing a blank, unsigned page. I love you, Scott. Come on, I'll send you a copy. Don't worry.
No, I wasn't talking about your that book. That I think that cover's quite nice, but the original cover that for this book, Modern British Cider, that was sort of touted.
Yeah, for the Kickstarter campaign that associated the launch of Modern British Cider, the second book by the ciderologist coming soon, yes, did have like a bit of holding artwork, which we have moved on from and to something a little bit more bold and creative, and looking forward to sophisticated, just like its author. You what?
I called you a glass hole. I whispered it. Oh god,
sounded really quite menacing. Right, well, there we go. There's another fantastic roundup of news here at the Neutral Cider Hotel. Okay, so now it's time to invite an actual paying guest here into the Neutral Cider Ho. Checking in today is the next generation of I think it's fair to say, a Herefordshire cider making dynasty. His grandfather won the Hereford Cider Museum competition all the way back in 1991, and his dad won pretty much every single competition going and achieved infamy in the cider community for the quality of the cider that he made, but also his hospitality alike. And now this next generation, is taking this traditional family farm cider maker into fun and contemporary places. Everybody, please welcome to the show Mr. Albert Johnson from the Ross and Wise Cider and Perry Company. Woo-hoo!
Thank you very much for having me on. Thank you.
Welcome,
Albert. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. I know that you're I think the first person that we've actually spoken to who has listened to an episode of the show. So you actually voluntarily came here of your own volition, knowing the semi-shit show that there is going on.
Do you know what? I've listened to almost all 4 episodes. Halfway through the most recent episode, because obviously for me it only came out 24 hours ago. And I nearly didn't come on, but in the end, I decided I should.
Is the right answer. So, Albert, for anybody who hasn't heard of Ross and Wise Cider and Perry Company, can't forget the Perry bit, of course, a little sort of brief roundup of like what it's all about, and then we'll obviously get down into the nitty gritty of things. But what's the essence of Ross and Wise?
So I'm the 4th generation of my family that is living and working on our farm. So we've been here since 1930. When we got here, there were a few young trees. There was one very old Perry tree, which was maybe already 95 years old at that point, but not very much. And so they made a little bit of cider maybe once a decade for fun, until 1978, my granddad planted our first orchard as we were looking to diversify the farm. And at that time, you had Bulmer's family company in Hereford City, looking for more local growers who would supply them fruit under contract year on year. So we got started that way and began to accumulate more and more planted commercial orchards. And my dad got involved and developed an interest in accumulating varieties. He wanted to plant as widely as he could, using fruit or using varieties from anywhere he could find them. And then that's ended up now with us in a position where we're growing around 100 varieties of apple and 40 varieties of pear.
Fucking hell.
And wherever possible, we will harvest, press, and ferment those varieties individually, with the intention that we will then be able to bottle and release a pure expression of that variety so that people can have the opportunity to taste these amazing individual flavors, because it is no understatement to say that every one of those flavors is totally unique, and all of them deserve to have that platform. So that's really the principle.
And this is, it's. I would say that Ross and Wise is synonymous. I can't even say it. Synonymous with quite a few different things, but one of the key ones, I haven't been drinking any Ross cider tonight, is this utilization and this amazing diversity of different bottled products that you have. Like I always say, without any actual evidence, but that you produce more a different range of bottled ciders of different sort of brands, let's say, in any given year than probably any other cider maker in the world, which is incredible and slightly bonkers. And I hope that it works economically for you. But actually, it has to now, because we're becoming so renowned for it, that people are really enjoying the exploration of these varieties that they probably didn't have any understanding of before. So it's a really cool thing.
Yeah, I have to say, I think that our bottle sales are traveling at quite a rapid rate. I've been involved now full time for the last 3.5 years, and when I got here, the focus was still very much bag and box. And I mean, we're very happy and proud with the cider we release in bag and box, but it isn't, as you've described, what we're really known for and what our reputation is built on. And it feels now finally that we're starting to break free from being the cider company that cider geeks know makes single varieties, to actually engaging with more and more people who want to explore single varieties who didn't drink cider at all 5 years ago, maybe.
How are you doing that then? How are you engaging with?
I think that we benefit from the growing interest in cider as a category generally, and I'm very fortunate to be in this privileged position where I'm walking into this company that my dad's spent the last 35 years of his life developing, or the cider company itself was only founded 17 years ago. So we already have an existing reputation, and crucially, an existing base of people who love our cider and act as advocates for it. So we're able to capitalize on this growing interest. And then I think that we're remaining aspirational in the quality of our ciders and trying to improve them all the time and make sure that the ciders are always clean, always purposeful, and always enjoyable. So then when we meet someone new and they have a taste, they really, really get it. We do farm tours, and I'm convinced that the best way to encourage people to both drink more cider and to develop a long-lasting relationship with cider is through face-to-face personal interaction. And the tours we do on the farm are, even when they're with people who say that they love cider, and then it transpires that what they love you wouldn't really call cider ourselves, they're so engaged by the principles behind making a single variety cider and fermenting cider naturally and maintaining your orchards with an environmental eye the whole time, that then they become converts. And I'm just seeing that happening more and more as we have a wider shift in food culture to looking more and more people for more and more higher quality, sustainably produced, ethically made products.
Where would you recommend someone starts with Ross on Wye if they're new to cider? They come visit you. They're like, I've had a Bulmers, I've had Strongbow, I've had White Lightning. Maybe what would you just?
we always
they
start
came all the way from Scotland,
and no matter what your background is. And the thing is, everybody is going to have a different preference. So we make, let's say in our bottle shop right now, we've actually ran out of a lot of lines. So probably now we're down at 45 to 50 lines, but you might come at one point in the year and there's 70, right? And every person is probably going to have a different favorite. There's some ciders that peak and have more, but so it's hard to say straight away what's the first one you should have. But we always start every tour with the same principle, that you need to taste a bitter sharp apple like Foxwhelp and a bittersweet apple. I like to use Ashton Bitter because those are the two most extreme examples of what does it mean to have a bitter sharp cider apple, what does it mean to have a bittersweet cider apple. And then what we do is we get them to blend, to open them, taste them individually. So experience where on your palate and on your tongue you taste the Foxwhelp, that big acidity in the beginning that dominates everything, even though there's tannin on the finish. And then the reverse experience with Ashton Bitter, where you have an apple that's got no acidity, is all about very, very bitter, very astringent tannins. And people can see then and actually experience what we'll talk about all the time with acid and tannin in a really obvious example of what the difference is. And then you blend them together, and of course, you get the benefits of both. You highlight the qualities of both while hiding their inadequacies. And so that's where we always start.
There's an amazing kind of a pull behind the curtain approach there, and you were talking earlier about the sort of unique properties each apple and pear variety have in themselves. But are there any that you are excited about that not many people know about? Like we tried the Thorn single variety perry in the previous episode, I think it was, guys. But yeah, fucking like I've not had a perry like it. But and we're obviously into cider, but like, are there any that you're like just stone cold proud of this vintage?
So, as in from our 2019 releases? Yeah. So the Thorn Perry, that was a really special one. When we released it, I described it then as the most complete Perry we had probably ever released, because it had that glorious elderflower aroma that invited you in. It had huge, like really bright citrus acidity that set you off. Then at that moment when it was just out and maybe hadn't quite finished its pet nat conditioning, still had that touch of sweetness that helped you along. And then it had these huge, like totally unforgiving tannins that my dad just couldn't believe that I had insisted we release this bottle because to him it was too much. But it went out there and the reception was phenomenal, and I was really happy with it. And actually, although when it came out, I sort of agreed with him. I had to eat it with goat's cheese because I found that the creaminess of goat's cheese really helped lessen the impact on your mouth. You can actually enjoy it rather than just being knocked onto your bum. But now that it's had these 6 months in bottle, the tannins have softened just enough to where I think now it's really a nice balance. So the Thorn is really great. It's not from 2019, but we've just released our second batch of the 2017 vintage of Flaky Bark Perry, which is a absolutely wonderful variety. As far as we know, there's only 6 mature trees growing anywhere on the planet. It's a pear.
Whoa, that's like just insane
6.
rare.
Six mature trees. So there are.
Have you got them all?
No, we don't have any of them. So
Are they in your garden?
These are it's one of the very rare occasions where we venture off the farm to source fruit, and we're just incredibly lucky that we've always had access to them. So some people deserve shout outs in the story of this Flaky Bark. So as I said, there's only 6 mature trees. They grow not quite on May Hill, on Glassstone Hill, which is just next to it. And our friend Rob Uren has always picked them from the very elderly couple that lived there. Those people moved away this year. Did I say Rob? I meant Rob Castle. Did I say Rob Castle?
No, you said
you did. You said Rob Uren.
No,
you did say Rob Uren.
Rob Castle.
Wrong Rob.
In himself an excellent perry maker who's just starting to develop his own making and larger than that. Very good. He always picked them for us. This year the couple moved away and new people moved in, and we weren't sure what was going to happen. So we supported the Gloucestershire Environmental Agency. They put a tree protection order on the trees just to be sure that whoever it was, we weren't going to lose this amazing ancient resource. But in any case, about 3 months ago, I got a phone call from the legendary Pat Cross from Jolter Press in the Forest of Dean.
Oh, Pat.
And he said to me, Albert, I've just spoken to some people who've just moved to the forest who've offered me their pears, and it turns out they're the Flaky Barks. And I said to them,
Dun, dun, dun.
Oh, Pat.
I would love to take these from you, but I can't. You have to sell them to Ross on Y because they're the ones that do it and they'll do it right. So thanks to Pat's recommendation, we've been able to get the Flaky Barks again. So this is going to be the first year since 2017 where we've got multiple barrels of it. In fact, I don't even think we made a pure single variety since 2017. So it's wonderful that we have some again. Because that 17 vintage is just unbelievable. It's a perry with such deep, rich tannins. You know, the Thorn tannins are there, but they're unrefined. They're just big. They're intense. The Flaky Bark is a drink that just gives and gives and gives in terms of its tannin. And so that's got to be our favourite perry pair.
You said then about your with the Thorn, you and your dad almost having like a point of contention, fighting either side of if it's ready, if it's not. What's your relationship with your dad working wise? Is it you've taken it fully on, or are you both together working in the business?
Well, the challenge for me is that I don't have any cider-related education, and to be fair, neither does my dad. And so it's meant that, when I first started working here, I kept asking him questions, and he would just like grunt, and I'd say, "What do you mean?" And he'd say, "Well, when you do it for 30 years, you get a knack."
Yeah.
So I can't, I learn by doing and by conversations with John, who's worked with us for nearly 20 years now as well. So my dad is still very important in everything because, we approach everything as in a democracy anyway. So most of our decisions are done by committee. We share everything, we discuss everything. What I have taken the lead on really is in the direction that we take in the cider company, in the sorts of ciders and perries that we're choosing to package, this project that we've done with keg conditioning, moving more stuff into that draft format, and choosing more and more what to bottle, when to bottle it, and how we're going to package it.
Here it comes. Here it comes.
Sorry, slightly.
Gabe, why don't you have that open on your fucking app?
Because my screen anyway, Albert, that you will know as our foremost podcast listener, whereby I have to try and find the horse's knowledge has spoken. Tell us, keg conditioning. So most people will know cider. If it's a keg cider, it's a fizzy cider. It comes out, and your cider is a fizzy cider that comes out of a keg, but it's different. Tell us about it.
So a credit to Little Pomona, because they are the ones who inspired this production method. Although when they did it, what it really did was switch the light on and say, well, this is how we've been making our cider in bottle for 20 years. So why aren't we doing it in keg? The principle is that you can have a fermentation in the keg, which obviously the byproduct of fermentation is carbon dioxide. So it's a pressurized container. You will have naturally sparkling cider if you ferment in the keg. The two key aspects are that it needs to be some kind of bag in keg technology. So we use key kegs, could be poly kegs. It can't be a traditional keg because the whole point is that the liquid that is coming out is totally pure and natural and hasn't had to be force carbonated. You want to have a very gentle and fine conditioning from this natural process rather than loading it with certain volumes of CO2. And when you then put it on the dispense line in the pub, you don't want to have CO2 from the pub's dispense line going into the product, and you could have just force carbonated it. What's the point? So you have to use bag and keg technology, and then you also are looking not just to ferment it in the keg, but to condition it. So it needs to go into the keg with the right amount of available fermentable sugar, so that when all that sugar is used up in that fermentation, you end up with the amount of carbonation coming out that you desire. And that's something we've been experimenting with to try and find out what is the ideal pressure to be in the keg. And also, obviously, the thing is with natural fermentation and with conditioning, actually, the amount of CO2 you get does vary quite significantly. Even if something, it's not, should be the case that 10 grams per liter of sugar will always lead you with the same amount of carbon dioxide and fizziness. But in reality, there's too many variable factors that affect it. Like, for example, how much sediment is there that's nucleating the CO2. But anyway, keg conditioning basically lets you make naturally sparkling ciders to be sold on draft lines in pubs, bars, whatever, that are fundamentally delicious.
Have you had the same cider in different pack formats? So say the same juice that's keg conditioned. Have you had it then either in bottle or bag in box or I can't even think of another fucking bottle. I just ran out of formats. Can, yeah.
We don't have anything in cans, actually. It's a really interesting question.
That's why you're not a cider maker, Martin. Come on.
Go on.
It's something that I've been thinking about. And up until recently, I've always resisted it because to me, as a consumer, I always felt like, if I paid a premium to have something in a bottle and then the same product showed up, a week or a month later on draft in the pub and I could get it for much less than I'd paid for it, I felt that I'd have a weird reaction to that. But talking to more people, I think most people don't actually see it like that.
No.
Although we haven't put the same thing in, we have an upcoming collaboration cider that we have made with the wonderful Susie and Chris from Fram Ferment Station House in Durham. And that one is 3 barrels. I won't tell you what it is yet, although I might have told some people.
Go on.
No. Can you tell what it is yet?
Do it. Do it.
Okay.
This isn't coming out for 6 months, so just tell us.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
It might
We're going to be in
work out.
lockdown 4 by then.
Doesn't matter. Yeah.
I mean, there's a story behind why it has ended up like this, but basically it's a American oak cask fermented Yarlington Mill single variety.
Oh, fiendish.
And so that's coming out in keg and in 750ml bottle. But there's only 11 kegs, so those are still going to be as exclusive and as special as the 750s that people will get to take home.
You're going to charge £1,000 for each one of those kegs, aren't you?
I mean, if people want to pay me £1,000 for it, I'm not going to say no.
Well, wouldn't that be an amazing thing? Like if you were a brewery of the notability, the reputation, and the appeal that you have within the cider industry, but and you were a brewer and you made 11 kegs of a completely unique batch and blend. All right, £1,000 might be a little bit over the mark, but there would be a fervor and there would be a real drive and a desire to want to actually get out to those places. You know, there'd be a clamor for the bars and the pubs that managed to get a hold of it, and then people would be flocking to get there. Dare I say, we're not quite there yet with cider, but 2020, despite all of the shit that's gone down, it really does feel that there has been a little bit of a drive towards, getting a hold of these limited releases, and that's partly down to it's a chicken and egg thing. It's a consumer drive, but it's driven by the likes of yourself who are creating these things and putting them out there and championing them, and there's starting to become a little modicum of that buzz, don't you think?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there is real hype now in cider, and for now it's a really good thing. It's helping cideries drive their products forward. It's helping us continue to grow our business and get ourselves in a position where we're all more confident, I guess, in the sustainability of it all. And that's great. So at the Keg Condition ciders, we launched them in January with a keg tour that took us from Durham, who I mentioned, to the Salutation, which is ran by the amazing Pete Tiley, but is basically in the middle of nowhere. It's not near a major city at all, but we still had 4 ciders on draft on keg at fairly steep prices. I mean, these are serious ciders that are going to let us be sustainable for the future, and we went to Belgium with it. So I don't think I would have predicted that was going to happen.
You took cider to the home of beer.
yeah, I know. Well, that's the thing. I mean, Joran in Cidrotech in Brussels, it's an amazing venue. He's in our top 10 accounts for the last 2-year period, even though he's in the middle of nowhere. But on the other hand, you've got to say that apart from this historical association of Bristol, and last year Manchester doing so well, there isn't really a city of cider. So cider has to make its place and find its way into a market where it's always going to be, oh, what's that? It's never going to be that, oh, I'm going to a pub.
How have you found kegs this year? So, because of everything that's been going on with pubs and
I mean
that was
that sounded so.
Why are you laughing?
Tough.
Like, how have you found selling those kegs? Just really.
Well, I ask because I've got like 15 in my warehouse that I can't fucking shift.
To be fair, it's tougher for you because up there in Edinburgh. And
no,
Glasgow.
it's no. What I'm asking genuinely. Have you noticed between your bottle and keg? How's it been with this situation?
I have to say that
COVID.
I have been really happy with how much we've moved in keg conditions this year. It's like we weren't even making these products until last September, not even selling them until we did Indie Man in October, and we did Salford Beer Festival in November, and I must have sold them to a couple of places then because I had loads, and then I didn't, and then we did the keg tour, and then we went into lockdown. So we didn't have that big an opportunity to establish it. But even so, basically, like at Ross and Y, we work with a few distributors, but actually a lot of our sales are direct to trade businesses, to pubs, and to bottle shops. And 1/3 of our sales are direct exports as well. So those are all people who have a passion for our ciders and love them. And when it's those people, then they can take something like a keg-conditioned cider that has just entered the market and doesn't have any existing base of drinkers on whom you might expect to sell it to. And because they are passionate about it and they love it, then they're finding drinkers for it. So I've been really pleased. And, you know, we're about to keg probably, how many empty kegs have we got? Like 2,500, 3,000 litres of kegs now, because I anticipate all of them selling.
That's awesome.
Maybe, say, by next June. And so, you know, given that it's winter and the temperature's cold, conditioning takes longer. And given also that the great benefit of keg conditioning is you have a cider that's maturing on these and improving month by month. You know, every month it's not selling, you'll be reassured to know it will be improving anyway. So,
oh no, I'm not worried. I'm not worried.
It's only going to get better.
So I'm really excited about kegs. And I have to say that
I've got one keg of Enter the Dragon, so that's
£1,000.
That's going to be my £1,000. That's my £1,000 keg.
Yeah.
Just to interject there as well, you said Indie Man, and just for anyone listening that doesn't know, it's a beer festival in the UK that's cherished by the craft beer community. It's like one of the best, and that links as well with you guys have just done a collab with Odyssey. How do you find kind of the? Are you jealous or inspired or stealing the ideas from like the craft beer scene? Like, how does that? No, because a lot of cider makers look at it and go, "Why can't fucking cider drinkers drink like that?" Like, the demand is insane, but also the creation of it seems almost, because it's a mechanical process, it seems kind of unlimited. Whereas cider's kind of, you're beholden to the seasons, and a lot of brewers aren't now out in the cold, in the dark, and the rain. So I think jealous is a fair question.
Pros and cons to both of them. I definitely am inspired by what goes on in beer. You know, there's some really amazing breweries, and so like Cloudwater. I mean, this is totally related to making a sale, but the Cloudwater right now are running their first Wayfinder project with Lily Wade to improve how inclusive the beer scene is, and you know, that's something that I would love us to be able to get into a position where we can do it, and it wouldn't just be with such silly funds that it looks embarrassing. Because I think that's a really inspirational initiative. And so we've been doing a few things here to make sure that we're, you know, at our events last year, everything was inclusive and there wasn't going to be a problem. I mean, there never is at our festival, but you want to prepare for it. But in terms of product making and the hype and this collab with Odyssey, you know, the great thing about this collab with Odyssey was we were the ones in control. So they made a wort, and then we put it in our barrels, and Mitchell was like, you do whatever you do, because I love your ciders and I love the drinkability of them, and I just want you to do that to the beer. And so we did it, and it went a little bit wrong for a while. So we did what we do with cider, and we just waited and waited and waited, and then 8 months later it started tasting incredible. So now that's gone out. That's been really well received so far. I'm really happy because some fantastic brewers have tried it and like it, and I think that's the biggest praise it can get, because you know, we're cider makers, and it's mixed fermentation beer rather than a 50-50 graph or just even a beer that's 50% juice. So that's been wonderful, and we're starting to see the sort of, I don't know, I mean, like Odyssey, we're trying to work out the price for it, right? And I had a distributor waiting for me to confirm it, and they were like, "Oh, I'm going on holiday. I'll tell you when we get back." So I waited, and then I the day after they got back, I delivered it to them, and I was like, "Right, so are we doing it at this?" And they were like, "Oh yeah, we've already sold it all." And I'm like, "What? Come on." So it'd be great to get to that point with cider, but
hype.
I think that
Hype.
I don't know. Beer is beer, and cider is cider, and I have to say that I'm optimistic about the pace and direction that cider's going in. If you take away the pandemic, what we all of us cider makers achieved in 2019 was absolutely phenomenal. So
yeah. I completely agree with you on there, and there are so many exciting things. And just pulling back around again to your cider making and what makes Ross and Y special and different. Yes, it's the fact that you have 19,000 different bottles of cider available, and the fact that you've got a real passion and specialization on Perry as well. Flaky Bark, obviously, is a great example of that. But there are two other elements that you really sort of major on too. The fact that you are a wild fermentation. So I was having a chat with someone earlier on today who didn't like the way that some cider makers utilized wild fermentation, or talking about wild fermentation as some kind of extra special thing. And I don't think that you do that. You just like to make ciders that are the sort of that natural expression. And then also around your utilization of wooden vessels, to which I might have made a comment on Neutral Cider Hotel previously that I think I said that the level of barrel within raison d'etre was maybe slightly higher than I personally would have wished. And
you said you fucking hated it, didn't you?
He's a
Grant,
cunt,
that's only 78% true. Tell us briefly a little bit about the role of the wild yeast in the barrels as like being the other sort of factors that make Ross and Y ciders what they are.
Yeah, so everything we make is wild fermented. We have done it that way the last 29 out of the 30 years that my dad's been doing it, and we put it on we've always put it on labels. It's always said on our labels, all of our cider is made from whole juice and naturally fermented. And now on our 750ml bottles, it says in format is that it says the name of the variety, it says the year, it says if it's been in an oak cask or not, and then it always will say wild ferment. And I think we have a responsibility to do that because that appeals to people who don't know about cider. Yeah, if you're a cider maker or if you're someone that's been drinking cider for 15 years, it probably is a little bit unremarkable to you if someone's wild fermenting, because a lot of us do it and a lot of us have a passion for it. But if you're someone that's been drinking wine for those 15 years and you're exploring cider and you've just started having maybe natural wine, or even if you haven't, that's new and exciting and interesting. So we have to put it there to appeal to those people, and we want them to start drinking cider. The reason, yeah.
Well, I was going to say it's been said, and I know this because we briefly chatted about it on a separate conversation yesterday, that Ross and Y through the utilization of these wild yeast strains that we think maybe have like built up as a colony in the barn, etc., produces quite an idiosyncratic flavor profile and aromatic profile, which some people call the Broom Farm funk.
Great band.
Funk, yeah, great. Did you check out their 1976 hit, I Love My Dabonettes?
Fucking
Moving on. Actually, Broom Farm, Albert Johnson and the Dabonettes. That's a true Motown band. Anyway, we digress ever so slightly.
You digress.
Don't drag us in this. Finish your question. Fucking hell.
Broom Farm funk. Do you think that's the thing?
So I don't like funk. In fact, my dad and I, the principle
music or flavor
no, I quite like funk. I mean,
I'll go watch my dad's band every now and then.
Confusing.
No, so the principle that my dad has always guided his cider making, beyond single varieties, but actually in terms of making cider, is to make clean, pure juice ciders with minimal chemicals. That's what he's always wanted to do. And so for us, our ciders are clean, and they are expressive of the fruit, and they don't have other factors. And as I've gotten into it and I've learned more about various problems, we have a Perry right now that's quite reductive and not on sale because I don't like how it smells, and I know it shouldn't smell like that, and I know it should smell of Perry. And I gave it to my dad literally before we had this conversation on the podcast, and he was like, "Oh, don't know what we're talking about. It smells fine. Tastes great." And I'm like, "Well, I know it isn't." So we're going to have to move beyond that. So I wouldn't say that our stuff is funky, but I would say definitely that because of our wild yeast, we have a consistent character to the cider making. According to Claude Jolicoeur, Quebec cider maker who has a fantastic book on cider making, knows everything.
Whoa! Somebody else has made a cider book. Ridiculous. It's not Ciderology by Gabe Cook. It's not even worth mentioning. Yeah. What does he know?
There will not be a link to that in the show notes.
There will not be a link. To be fair, if anybody is a new cider maker, they probably should buy that book, The New Cider Maker's Handbook, and Cider Making, Craft Cider Making by Dr. Andrew Lee. Anyway, sorry. Digress again.
So they reckon that about 90% of your wild yeasts are coming from the equipment from the cidery. So if you have that fact, then you know that year on year you're going to have the same number of strains. And I also think that you're getting between 10 and 20 different strains of yeast that are going to be active throughout the life cycle of your fermentation. And they'll have different factors that mean they come in at different points. So the temperature that it is, the amount of sugar that's in there, the amount of alcohol that's in there, all of these different strains have different points of primacy where they will start developing more than the other ones. So with wild yeast, you get this consistent character, which is with wild yeast, you get this consistent character which is reminiscent of your cidery, consistent to your cidery, and also has fantastic complexity. It does end up, or it does mean that you may not get these crystal clear aromatics that you're getting if you're dosing it with a cultured yeast, which is designed to bring out the best aromatics. But instead, we get a product which is more honest to our fruit and to our farm, and that's what makes us happy with it.
Amazing. And then onto the question of the barrels. You're a big proponent of utilizing wooden vessels. A lot of them ex-spirit casks, which can impart a certain kind of flavor. That's for a portion of your range. That's quite important, isn't it?
Yes. So we love barrels. My dad always has done. Raison d'Etre is only 30% barrel this vintage, so it's impossible for it to have too much barrel. I
have been told, everybody, absolutely, no doubt.
So we've always gotten freshly emptied spirit barrels down from Scotland, and fermented in them, and we just love the additional character context it gives to a cider to make something that's been in that barrel. But we still want the cider itself to be the most expressive part of the drink. So we will often blend those barrels back with something that's been fermented in a neutral container, or to be honest, in a plastic container, because we can't afford stainless steel. And then you can get a cider which is all about the fruit, but maybe has some more smoke, or maybe it has some more spice, or maybe it has some more vanilla-y sweetness, and those things are great. And in recent years, we've been really lucky because we have been sent Armagnac casks from friends in France, which gave us just unbelievably good ciders. And last year, we had a load of barrels that arrived. We thought they were Scottish whiskey barrels. Turned out they were definitely, I'd never seen Scottish whiskey, and were freshly emptied bourbon barrels instead. And that's also given us cider, which is just has a different dimension entirely to something that has Scottish whiskey in. So there are great tools for expanding our range of flavors.
Amazing. I had the opportunity to have a little sneaky taste of a Kingston Black in one of these American Oak, and amazing and different once again. Again, just shows the fantastic diversity and range of flavors that you can achieve with these different apple varieties and different barrels. So I suppose a final sort of question for me would be: are there any other cider makers in the UK or beyond that excite you, or that you're kind of really into and that you would like to champion and showcase?
So yeah, it's hard to choose just a few. I have to give a shout out to my faves, James and Colleen from Duck Chicken Cidery in London. They make just a small amount of pure juice, always dry, excellent cider from Kentish apples. Really, really good. I have to give a shout out to Barry from Kurtelreiter in Germany, who also is probably the only other person in the world to have listened to every episode of Neutral Cider Hotel.
Thank you, Barry. We love you.
Yeah.
We love you.
How
Germany.
you doing, bud? Yeah, German audience. Anyway, anyone else?
And of course,
hello, wie geht es Ihnen?
Oh, fuck off, Gabe.
Okay.
I mean, Barleywood in Somerset this year, they released a trio of Keep ciders, and every one of them was utterly fantastic. Uprising, Liberty, and Ashdown, I think it was called. All of them were really, really phenomenal.
Nice. So have you got anything you want to plug?
I mean, nothing crazy. I just hope people will keep buying and drinking our cider, because that's what I need you all to do.
Yes.
What's the best place for people to get a hold of your cider, Albert?
The best place is hopefully we're going to wear this and we'll be out of lockdown. People should come visit us. We run our local pub. It's called the Yew Tree Inn in Peterstowe. And we have a cider shop there. So you can come to the pub. We do pizzas and you can drink. We have Care Condition Perry on right now. We have Frontier, which is a collaboration we made with Hogan Cider. We have Draft, Bag-in-Box cider, and then obviously the 70 different bottled ciders and perries.
Fuck
so
it
that's
now.
the best place. And there's an attached caravan site, so you can come, you can post up for a whole weekend, sort yourselves right out. Or in the summertime next year, hopefully our campsite on the farm will be open again as well, and that's family friendly.
Absolutely
Lovely.
amazing. It's for anybody who has not had the opportunity to visit these guys down at Peterstowe, just outside Ross and Wye in Herefordshire. Can't advocate it highly enough. It is far more than just the cider itself. There is the most wonderful community. And for anybody who hasn't read Ciderology by Gabe Cook, then it's obviously important for me to say that the Ross and Wye Cider and Perry Company is where I learned to make cider all those years ago. 14 years ago, this time 14 years ago, I was much younger, much slimmer, and much broader of shoulder, having actually done some physical work and making some cider. So it's a really magic place. Albert, thank you very much for joining us tonight, and thank you for continuing the legacy of the Ross and Wye Cider and Perry Company. It's a really, really exciting time for you, for Herefordshire cider, for British cider, for cider all over the world. And you're a really important part of that. So keep on doing what you're doing, and we'll keep on drinking it. So thank you very much. And we'll speak to you another time, I'm sure. Cheers, man.
Cheers to that. Thanks
very much, man.
Bye.
Wassail. Now at the Neutral Cider Hotel, it's time once again every week to undertake our big tasting session with another fabulous bottle that we each have in front of us right now to taste and compare. And this week it is the Oliver's Gold Rush number 8 Raw. Sorry for the unnecessary noise, but actually I think it is kind of justified. This is the very first time that I personally have tasted this cider. And the first thing that comes to mind, I'm just going to say it and then hand it over to you guys, is smoked salmon and cream cheese. That's what I'm getting in the nicest possible way. Yeah. You're both vegan, so that won't mean quite so much to you, obviously. Not that you've never
You mean as in
tasted
you'd
salmon
pair
before,
it
possibly.
with, or are you getting cream?
The sensation, the sensorial, the thing that springs to mind is there is a smokiness in there.
Sorry, on you go.
Well, so there's a smokiness in there which is reminiscent of the smoked salmon bit, but there is also a bit of a softness to it, which is the slightly sort of cheesy bit. And I know that's malolactic fermentation of some kind.
There's like a salinity, which might be the salmon. There's a savoury, almost saltiness.
Yeah,
to
definitely.
It. Like the smoke for me, it's obviously heavy smoke. I don't think you can get away from that, but it reminds me more of like an Islay whiskey, but not so much the peat, but the coastal flavors you get.
Yeah.
I think that's what it is. In no way am I saying that this cider tastes fishy. That's not.
No, I don't. But I'm trying.
The old fish flavored cider is not quite there, but yeah, it smells like. It smells like a Scottish harbour. No, it doesn't smell like a Scottish harbour.
Not that. Do you know what? That's not far off. Like, that's, a coastal whiskey. You see when you see the distilleries on Islay, they're they can't avoid seawater. They get absolutely battered by the elements, and there's a certain it's a salinity to it and a savouriness that you is often overpowered by the peat smoke. But I think that's definitely there.
Well, usually, guys, we intro this cider before we give our thoughts. You just said raw, but
no, I didn't. No, I didn't. I said tonight we're drinking Oliver's Gold Rush No. 8 raw.
Yeah, but I know the people that are listening.
All right, it's the teacher here, Mr. Goodwin Sherman.
I was so excited to try it because I hadn't done so yet. Martin, what do you think?
Well, basically, all I was.
He wants to intro it first, doesn't he?
No, I can't now, can I? It's like asking for foreplay. I'm in. I'm tipped in. What are you doing? Fucking hell. So anyone listening at home that isn't us, a couple ciders in, Gold Rush is one that we've all waxed lyrical about, and Grant and I have said many times that it's like our go-to. And this is the unfiltered version of No. 8. And the thing that I just wanted to sort of give people a bit of insight into is that it's something that stood out to me is that it spans 3 vintages. So just trying to get an idea to someone of having like a beer that's 3 kind of worts, 3 different years blended together, it would be like a premium product. So knowing that something like this is an easy, accessible, fine cider really is just fucking astounding from the get-go. But now I sound like a teacher dickhead.
Accessible? Hold on. Accessible how?
In pricing comparatively.
Pricing, right, okay.
Because with beer...
Because I was going to say it's not... I don't think it's accessible.
This is in Aldi.
Oh.
No, this is not an Aldi. But my point being, comparatively to the beer scene, there's some beers that I've bought or like had pre-ordered and stuff like this, and you just like the cost of it is added up because it's a mechanical process and they're paying for the rent and it's explained and it's understood. But then you look at something like this and you're like, all that character for essentially sometimes half the price. And for me, everything here is integrated brilliantly. It isn't just like 3 different things that kind of he's tried to put together because it will make money or whatever. It's just like a great expression. So I had this on what's it called? I had it on Instagram the other day, but I said smoke and brine, and then apple skins, juicy, savory, sherbety texture with the carbonation, rugged but subtle. It's everything I want from it, but definitely that briny character and that whiskey. Yeah,
that must be it.
That Bunnahabhain kind of whiskey. When he said it in there, I was like, oh, I can't wait to bring this up. Okay, now
Bunnahabhain.
But it's probably pronounced right. I'm really sorry, guys.
No, Bunnahabhain is, well, if that's what you said.
I definitely said a B, right. But I'm going to pretend I said a V. So Bunnahabhain.
Oh, right, okay.
But I tried. But no, like I say, we've definitely all fucking sung this praises, and the raw, it isn't what I thought it was going to be, which was like a bigger, boozier, more complex version. It's actually a bit drier, leaner, and more subtle. So I would just say heed your expectations, because when it says raw, like big, I thought it was that, especially with the pack format being big bottle instead of 330. I was expecting like this is the Mayflower but with Gold Rush, and I'm pleasantly surprised. It's so it's so refined in some places, but the characteristics are more divisive. So that smoke's more present. And I know we're just talking at Ross and Y about it, but smoke for me is something that it definitely is a barrier between me and the drink. I usually am challenged more and will drink it slower. Whereas this is like a fucking chugger.
You've got that little element of smoke in there, but without the boozy component in there. from the barrel. It's quite interesting, and I completely agree with you, Martin. That is actually, yes, there are some quite intense characters, but overall, it's relatively sort of smooth and subtle. It's a really interesting cider and a great addition to the Gold Rush story. If the difference simply is that it has not been filtered and pasteurized potentially, I'm not sure, then it must be a great juxtaposition against it. I think it's really interesting, and I'm really glad that it wasn't just me that was thinking of smoked salmon. That salinity and that savory character.
Well, no one else said fish, but yeah.
Well, okay. Apart from the fishiness, but yeah, the savoriness and the salinity.
The image you painted of it is perfect, but when you say this cider tastes like smoked salmon, there's a fucking problem.
and cream cheese.
Yeah,
don't forget the cream cheese.
Okay, well, I like a smoked salmon and cream cheese bagel on occasion. The two go hand. It's a classic. It's a classic bagel mix.
It is the two fucking sidekicks hating on the ciderologist here, the guy who actually knows everything he's talking about, and I'm going cider shit going, I disagree.
I don't eat cheese. I'm vegan. Tastes like hummus to me.
It's got a lot of chickpea to it, isn't it? It's chickpea soft. It's very oat milky.
It's a lot of mung bean in there.
But we digress. Gold Rush is lovely. What's wonderful with it as well is so Gold Rush, the whole series for me has been a phenomenal kind of big, bold character, but never in spite of its sessionability and its accessibility. And Gold Rush Raw has that as well. It's like that amped up. It isn't a big challenging bastard. This is one that's going to go down easy.
It's not, but it for me it's missing the there's I get a really beautiful plum stone fruity thing with the regular that I don't get here. It seems kind of like just an out of focus version of the original. No, I mean no, but I think like what you're saying, like it's smoother, it's it's more subtle, and it is just a bit fuzzier, which isn't a bad thing, but it's just not as focused and I think this is, I would find this less accessible than the regular, because I think
what you're saying with the
are you talking accessibility with
no now I'm talking
again,
about like there's a lot of bottles and we'd say smoke and everything like that. There's lots of bottles that I've had where I'll sit there and my wife will be like, no, I'm not drinking that. I give her a little glass of everything, she'll be like, no, I'm not having that. Whereas this, you pour it and she's like,
a little glass of everything. You're so good to her, man.
But hear me out, I fucking pay for all this. No, as in like, because a lot of it's like I've got this fucking shit and it's like, oh, this is this cool funky thing, and she'll sip it and go, that ain't cool and funky, it's shit, and I'll sit there and enjoy the bottle. But this is one where you give her a bit and she's like, yeah, no, that is good, I'll take that, and you're like, oh, okay, it's gone. So to me, that's my barometer. It's
just, I guess in comparing it directly to its unraw version, it's obviously going to be really subtle differences, but the differences are enough for me to choose the original over this, I think.
I suppose it's the point of this cider, and the great and the fun thing is that we do actually have an opportunity to taste something, the exact same liquid, in two different presentations. One in a slightly more clean or polished, and something, as he has said, in its kind of raw format, and shows the impact of like presenting it in sort of different ways. So again, it's just another great piece of cider education and sort of showcasing all the different tools and things that cider makers have at their disposal.
Well, it harkens to with Cider is Wine and that campaign about promoting the quality of juice and the practices. This and what Grant's saying kind of link to cider isn't wine or beer. It's its own thing. So if Tom is filtering this, and you wouldn't do that in anything else, surely if you approve of the Gold Rush more than you do the Raw, that process is invaluable in cider. It isn't something that should just be cast out because it quote unquote diminishes the product, because like you're saying, Grant, you prefer it. Like I love the campaign and the push to treat cider like wine, but cider is its own thing. And again, this goes to show that part of the process isn't like beer where it strips out quite a lot of the flavor and mutes it. This brings it into focus, as Grant says.
Yeah, I guess that's the difference, isn't it? Why are you doing it? Why are you filtering it? And this raw, like you say, is great. It's great to have this AB that you can sit and compare and drink.
Well, there we go, ladies and gents. We can see that this conversation has a discussion around the Oliver's Gold Rush number 8 Raw has incited a lot of conversation amongst us, which we will conclude now by saying, well, either way, whether you like it raw or otherwise, it's an amazing drink. It's an amazing series. And
you've got to have foreplay first. Well, we give extra towels at the hotel.
Okay, get my UV light out.
However you like
in
it.
the bed
Fuck you know. Get the UV light. So, with the election that's just been in America, it would seem only right to make a game about the country and link it to cider. So, guys, for you today, I've crafted a game I've called Star Spangled Cider.
Star Spangled Cider.
So, I went through a lot of sort of cider references in literature, film, and it just turns out that you just keep getting the cider house rules over and over again. But I stumbled upon a lot of founding fathers and their quotes about cider. So I just wanted to play this with you. So basically, I'll ask you a question. We'll do it so that Grant answers first, Gabe answers second, and then Scott, our producer in America, will announce the answer. So I will. Is everyone ready? Does anyone have any questions before we begin, or are we just going to jump in?
I'm ready and I'm petrified. Let's go.
Grant?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right.
Yeah. Why not?
So, yeah, fuck it. I don't want to be with my partner in bed. It's 10:30 in the UK. Let's do a game. Fucking hell.
Yeah, just prolong it a little bit more, Martin. That's cool.
All right. So, question 1. Which American hero frankly loved his cider, saying, "Give me yesterday's bread, this day's flesh, and last year's cider. And he that drinks his cider alone, let him catch his horse alone." So who said that?
How long did you work on that accent, Martin?
I've been doing it for 10 years.
Benjamin Franklin.
Grant's going for Benjamin. Who else could it be?
Oh.
Just ruined the whole thing. I explained it, Scott.
I'm so used to being muted. I was getting it ready.
You rat fuck.
Sorry.
Well, we don't know what that bell means.
That bell means it's up for debate. Now, Gabe, who could that be?
I was going to say another name, but something might compel me to say Benjamin Franklin right now. So is it Benjamin Franklin?
Oh, now you want it?
There you go. On demand.
Yes, I'm glad that you're fucking up as well. Yes, Scott. Come on, brother.
Well, Scott,
Got your back.
Fuck off. What were you going to say, Gabe?
Yeah, Gabe.
Yes, exactly. Say what you were going to say.
I am hyper competitive, by the way.
I'm not going to tell you because it might be one of the answers to another question. I don't want to give you an inkling.
Oh, very good. Very good.
I've lost my pen.
Gabe,
Okay,
you were going to show us your underwear? What was happening there?
Surely we should swap.
I was going to show you the fact that had a little bit of sass there. It's because I've just realised that I'm wearing like the West Country version of like a J-Lo all colour, all green.
For our listeners at
happening
home.
right now?
For our listeners
Just
at
taking
home.
a note of this the timing of this for the video.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Gabe is just
2 hours,
giving us
14,
a slutty show.
Don't be fooled by the rocks that I got. I'm still Gabe from the block. Come on.
I'm still Gabe from Dimmock.
Don't be fooled by the tractors that I got. I'm still Gabe from the farm.
Don't be fooled by me, Dimmock Red. I'm from Dimmock and I'm inbred.
Oh, yes. Brilliant.
The new single from G-Lo is rocking the charts.
So many options for top of the show.
Fucking hell. So, Grant, were you going to say that you should swap who says the answer first kind of thing?
Well, surely.
Yeah, okay.
It's only fair because I've just given him the right fucking answer this time.
Ah, yes.
I didn't know that you were so competitive. This is really interesting.
Grant's eyebrows have now
Very competitive. Right? I just pulled back my clip so that my hair is no longer in my way.
Streamline.
That's the Scottish equivalent of rolling up your sleeves.
I'm actually fucking raging. It's 1-1.
So, okay, wow. Let's move on to question 2. So, remember, American election is the is kind of the glue for this cider. I guess quiz. Is it a quiz? A game? I don't know. But number 2. What practice in early American democracy was called swilling the planters with bumbo?
Whoa, yeah.
I now wish that I had gone first with the first question. Could you repeat the ridiculousness once more, please, Martin?
So, what practice in American democracy was called swilling the planters with bumbo? So if you imagine, I'll give you a little help here. So if you imagine the early politicians would go, we need to swill the planters with bamboo.
How is that a clue? You just repeated the same thing.
Imagine it's not me saying this. Imagine it's someone else saying this.
All right.
In exactly the same way.
I'll open it up more. So, if you're in early America, yeah, and you hear someone say, swilling the planters with bamboo, what do they mean?
Do they mean creating duplicate votes?
Creating duplicate votes. Grant, what are you saying when I say, what are you saying? What's this American fuck mean when he says, swilling the planters with bamboo?
Lying to the voters, talking shit, talking nonsense, feeding bullshit.
Like spin.
Spin.
Yeah.
Spin. And what was your answer again, Gabe?
It was not
spin probably.
Spin.
Should it be spin?
I don't think it should.
No, I said I said about creating like duplicate votes, like fake votes, fake ballot votes.
No. I mean, Scott's nodding, but it's definitely a no. So just do the no noise, Scott.
I would say, Gabe, you were closer. The correct answer is buying voters drinks before they went to the polls.
Ah.
So there's actually a story here I wanted to say. So I'm going to try read this out as well in an accent because it seems to work. But when a young George Washington ran for Virginia House of Burgesses in 1755, he didn't shell out for drinks and lost the election in a 27-1 to 40 landslide. Undeterred, Washington ran in 1758, and this time the cider was flowing. Washington's campaign served up 144 gallons of hard cider, and he cruised into office. Without hard cider, who knows whose face would be on the $1 bill?
Oh, I mean, and the Oscar for Best Adapted Screenplay goes to Bumbo by Martin Goodwin Charman.
Bumbo.
You can swill my planters with Bumbo, baby. So,
great fact.
Good work,
yeah, no, how good. Basically, he went, I'm not paying for shit. And then he lost and went, oh, fuck, I'll get everyone pissed, haven't I? So, swilling the planters with Bumbo.
If Trump had used cider, he might have won.
Yeah, you'd still have a white supremacist in the office. Yeah. Anyone listening in America, go fuck yourself. Number 3.
See, when you say that, though, nobody knows what side of the fence you're on. Who are you telling to fuck themselves?
That was a very smart, neutral comment.
Welcome to the neutral cider hotel where all satire is blazing and without direction. But number 3.
but very neutral. So you see, non-partisan.
Yeah, non-partisan. So
the non-partisan cider hotel. That's what it should be called.
So number 3, and now competitive Grant goes first. But number 3, Thomas Jefferson was very fond of an apple variety originating from what is now Queens. He once wrote from Paris, "They have no apples here to compare with our blank." He didn't say blank, he said the apple variety. But what apple variety did Thomas Jefferson come hard over? Saying, they have no apples here to compare with our...
It's going to be something Pippin. Newton Pippin?
And Gabe, what are we saying on Newton Pippin?
I am going to say Newtown Pippin, which is obviously very, very different from a Newton Pippin, just saying.
Scott!
The correct answer is Newtown Pippin, Newton Pippin, both.
Yeah, both.
Ah, fuck
Equal.
you now. All right, we'll let him off.
Impressive.
But yeah, he was like real catty about it, Thomas Jefferson. He was like really like, the poor people in Europe don't like our Pippins. And it's like, fuck off. Found in
it was
wank.
It was the first apple variety to be exported from the USA to the UK. Eventually, it did come in. I think it was early 20th century. Norman Stanier from Dragon Orchard in Herefordshire told me the story about it. But it's a great apple, makes a great cider.
Any notable examples that our listeners might be able to get? I know vintages change and everything, but is there anyone that is using it, Gabe?
There's definitely none in the UK. I'm not sure if there's any Newtown Pippin apples. If anybody has a Newtown Pippin in the UK, please do get in touch. And on the USA side, I know that the Angry Orchard Walden Cider House, they do a single variety Newtown Pippin. There are quite a few others, I'm pretty sure, in upstate New York. I wonder whether somebody like South Hill Ciders or Black Duck possibly. I'm pretty sure it would be in the mix somewhere with Eves, who obviously we spoke to on a previous show. So yeah, it's definitely like a sort of New York State, New England kind of thing.
Okay. Well, it sort of proves Thomas Jefferson wrong in that the UK don't really have that many. So, I mean, can't be that good, can it? They have loads that compare. Too many to name. So, number 4. I'm actually crying.
I never realized our founding fathers were such assholes until I played this game.
Drop the tea into the river for no reason. No, I'm sure they had a reason. Independence. But number 4. Okay. So number 4. Which vice president started each day with a tankard of hard cider, once saying of this ritual, "It seems to do me good"?
The quote really helped. But...
Do you know what? Only because of the wonderful and really quite truthful delivery that you gave, Martin, I'm going to say that it's John Adams.
John Adams. Okay. And what are we saying to John Adams, Grant?
I'm going to say it was Thomas Jefferson. Don't even know if he was a vice president.
I was going to say, how many vice presidents in the U.S. are you aware of?
Was it Kamala Harris? Or
No, it was actually Mike Pence. It was Mike Pence. I can't be near a woman, but I can be near hard cider. No. Do you want to say who it's got?
Yeah, the correct answer goes to Gabe. It is John Adams.
Hey,
Yes,
so
boy.
Grant is just a loser. Okay, so
well, do you see how I didn't just say what Gabe said because I thought it was right?
yeah, but that's
See how I didn't do that, Gabe?
Not
I
cheating.
thought you
though.
said that you were the most competitive person around. Like that was a surefire win. If you don't know, obviously copy the other person.
Yeah,
you
yeah.
lose out, mate. Losing.
Well,
and that means you are now
no,
losing.
no,
Well, no. Let's not get catty here, guys. So,
I think it's 1-1.
So number 4, John Adams, and it says here, again, Adams became a cider devotee as a college student and later reminisced about his student days of throwing back cider. I shall never forget how refreshing and salubrious we found it, hard as it often was.
But that quote went south really fast at the end.
Well, he basically was like, yeah,
that's
like
fantastic.
the reason I brought it up was he said, what did he say?
Were
He said-
were all the founding fathers on in SpongeBob SquarePants? Or...
Tune in next time. Oh, but the way it was written, like that, there were a lot of websites that I looked at this for where it was saying like the founding fathers loved hard cider, and it was like an American website that was proper promoting this drink, rightly so, as an American institution that sort of paved the way for sort of alcohol in the early days, and it put every quote up like it was this fucking bombastic, ethereal representation of we the people and cider, and just the fact that they put up "it seems to do me good?" as like this concrete.
They have no apples here that compare with our Newton Pippin. Like that is not.
It's like yes, America. But I just love as well. Like I shall never forget how refreshing it was. But he's like, I really struggled because it was hard cider all day. Like it really wasn't a good time. He's just getting tanked. Like imagine the fucking listeners at home. You heard me in the Eves episode that we did. I struggled. I really struggled.
If you didn't listen, you should listen back.
Well,
it's pretty good.
I'm like 3 ciders in, and my chest was on fire. It was proper bad. And he's on it all day, every day, and he's fucking founding a country. So, props to America. Thank you very much, guys. There you go. That's my game.
Star Spangled Cider.
Bravo.
What was the
what
was the score?
You lost.
How?
Well, so
because you said Newton Pippin, not
No, no, no.
Newtown Pippin.
That's how you say it in Scotland. It's an accent thing. Newton.
no. So
You drop the W
well,
every time.
Scott, did you give him? Did you give Gabe the buying the votes? Because you said it was about like stealing.
No.
No.
So both got Benjamin Franklin. Yes, nobody got number 2. Both got 3, and no.
Gabe
Gabe got
missed.
number 4. So Gabe won.
Yeah. Grant, you lost.
Oh, he really is having a hard time.
How does it feel to be a loser?
It honestly feels horrendous.
Normally, in scenarios like this, I would be quite obviously detestingly smug, but I think for the safety of myself and my family, I might just keep it quiet and say, "Well
And your
played."
country.
And yes.
On the border with the bombs. Jesus, Grant. Calm down. And your fucking country.
Hey, I didn't swear, all right?
I was a wrong answer on Pointless, you know. I'll fucking have my day.
Fuck you.
And that's the game.
And so after that fine and glorious victory for me in the quiz there from Martin, it's now time to go on to our listener questions. This is, as always, the opportunity for you to ask the three of us pretty much any question you like. It could and probably should be cider related, but it could be about, life crises or personal circumstances if you wish, but at your peril. You know what these people are like. So please do get your questions in. At Instagram, Neutral Cider Hotel, Twitter, Neutral Cider Pod, and come and ask us questions. Martin, what have we got this week from the great listening public?
First question is from Ben Thompson, who's Cider Voice on Twitter, so at Cider Voice.
Hi, Ben.
He said, with lockdown looming around the UK again, who are some less well-known up-and-coming cider makers people can support? So, guys, who are the smaller ones? I know we always rave about Oliver's. I love Pilton, Fine and Foster, Little Pomona, Starved Crow. Those are all counted, but who are the ones that might not be on the wholesalers' lists yet? Who are the ones that people might be able to go to the maker and find their own gem, their diamonds in the rough?
Good question. It depends on whether it's like sort of like really new and up and coming on the radar. I really like Bushel and Peck, who are in Gloucestershire, like just outside Cheltenham, between Cheltenham and Winchcombe, and David Lindgren, who's the cider maker there. It's pretty much like a sort of one man band, and he's mostly wild for men. It's a whole juice, and it's a range of different varietals in generally smaller vessels. And he's this year especially, for the last sort of two harvests, sort of been more playful and experimental, and had the opportunity to try some amazing bottle conditioned and pet nat Dabinet, Tremlett's Bitter, Ashmead's Kernel, really interesting Perry. I think he's a really, really good cider maker. He's just quite small in terms of volume, not as a person. He's about 6'2", and I think he's making ciders that if you put Oliver's or Ross and Y on the label, people go, yeah, that's up to that standard. So yeah, Bushel and Peck, check it out. I think that's one for me.
I'm gonna go. I mean, I don't know how in the southwest if Harry's cider is a kind of a big name, but it's a Somerset. He's a Somerset cider maker that I actually had a bag and box of his at my wedding in Glasgow, tucked in the kitchen. They couldn't sell it at the bar, but I was like, oh, please just let me bring it in so I can not drink the stuff that you've got on tap.
So yeah, it's proper.
It's proper kind of Somerset cider, and I bought it directly from their website, was it, or maybe Ibria, that place that you can buy straight. It's essentially is direct from the maker, but and I enjoy that. Enjoy his stuff, and it's certainly not something that up in Scotland anyone would know about. So. Mm-hmm.
Well, that's the great thing.
What about you, Martin?
Well, I was going to say that's the great thing with cider, of that kind of like small maker. It's almost regionalized. Like there's a lot of that kind of locality still within it. And the West Country. I grew up in Cornwall, and Dad lives in Devon. And actually, my dad's packaging factory do the boxes for Harry's. So that box that was at your wedding, yeah.
Brilliant.
It harkens back to it when you're saying about like in Scotland, it's a completely new thing. And for our listeners, a lot of them are essentially going to be in London and Bristol, like big cities listening in, or they're going to be makers. So the makers are going to might be in the know of each other, but a lot of the city guys are going to be localized to that area. So they're going to have the wholesalers lists. But there are fuckloads of small cider makers that I don't even know about that are making literally craft artisanal shit that's banging. But we don't get to experience it. So the best thing I'd say is look at lists like the National Association of Cider Makers. Go on Wikipedia. Wikipedia have the UK's list of active cider makers, and there are at least 30 on there, which I didn't know. And when I was thinking about this question, I thought, you know what, I'm actually going to look into them myself and drink them, because that's exciting. That's the great thing about it. It isn't like the top 10 guys are making these killer things. It's like there's lots to be drank. So the one I would say, though, I know you are actually getting them in, but Wobblegate Rebel Root. They make some stuff that I don't see on anyone else's like Instagram really as like this, it's this one to go for. They make something that's peculiar, interesting, fresh, vibrant, and unlike anything else I've had from the UK. So it might not be to your taste, but it's something that I think you should try, because it's just, when I tried it, I was like, what the fuck is this? And this is from the UK. It tasted more like Spanish Cidre. It was like insane. So definitely check those guys out. And yeah, like I say, just give yourself 10 minutes to fucking research it, because there are a fuckload out there.
And a good place is just having a look on Instagram. You know, the people that you follow, the cider makers they follow, is a good way to find that out.
Yeah. On the US side of things, it's a little more challenging, because unlike the UK, where obviously as a nation we're a lot smaller and we've got full reign to easily distribute all around the aisles, it's a little different. On the USA side of the pond, a lot more restriction on sort of distribution, and so it's a bit more about sort of more regional brands. And so a few favorites for me that are a little smaller: Descendant Cider, who are based sort of just on the outskirts effectively of New York City, sort of on Long Island. They're fantastic. If you're in California, make sure you check out Lassen, absolutely brilliant cider. If you're in Michigan, check out the People's Cider Co. They're in Grand Rapids. They're making some cool, fun stuff. And one of my top 5 cider makers in the whole country is in North Carolina. That's the James Creek Cider House. Check out those guys making some amazing stuff.
All right. So the final question of the evening. I don't know why my voice has gone on this. So the final question of the evening. So it's from Cider Buzz MCR on Twitter. When craft beer exploded into the UK mainstream in the mid-2010s, craft cider was conspicuous by its absence as a running mate. That's from Pete Brown in Craft, an Argument 2020. That's right. This fucking question has notes and references. So...
Good old days.
More professional than this whole podcast.
Whoa. Don't point out the truth too much.
It's actually, what's it called again? Referenced in such a way that it is Oxford ready for uni students. So you could actually put this in an essay and have it, because it cites the reference as well. But when craft beer exploded into the UK mainstream in the 2010s, craft cider was conspicuous by its absence as a running mate. Is craft cider in 2020 ready to explode out of its niche? Can Pete Brown's definition of craft apply to cider? So guys, what are we saying about the prefix of craft, and is cider ready for that moment?
Yes.
And that is the show. So thanks very much, guys. No, I disagree with you. But why'd you say yes?
No. My answer is that is cider ready for the cider equivalent of the craft beer thing? Yes. Will it look the same as craft beer? No. Will it even? Will that movement be called craft? No, I don't think so. Because because of its primary connotations with beer, and because so many people talk about sort of being post-craft or craft fatigue or craft being devalued and things like that. It's not. I don't think it's as simple as that, and I don't think that this emergence, what Albert was talking about earlier on, this kind of drive and this interest in 2019 being a really cool year and 2020 being on hiatus, and what's going to happen over the next few years is going to be really cool, but it's going to be small compared to beer, because the number of total consumers who do currently or who potentially will drink cider relative to beer is much smaller, and because cider isn't beer in the way that you make it, in the way that you gain your differentiation, in the way that you can't so easily create a consistent product in the same way. So it's not going to be around a brand. It's going to be more around aesthetic and flavor and storytelling. So yes, I think there are happening now already. The fact, we talked about the hype and the buzz, and again, it is being able to sell out of a fairly limited edition bottle after only a few weeks via the internet is one thing. Selling out of 5,000 litres of a single batch, like at the tap room, that single day when the beer is launched and there being queues out the door, is a different thing. So yes, some kind of similarities, but it's going to be done in obviously a slightly more apologetic, cidery way, probably.
Well, I think it's going to be, like you say, that it's not going to be exactly the same as the craft beer movement, but I think cider's in a good position to step up, to reach more people. I think the way cider's made, the compared to beer, it's a slow process. It's a seasonal process. That's something that I think people are looking to with their food as well. Provenance and of the produce, and where it comes from, how it's made, the variety, the apple varieties, as Albert said, that being an important story to tell, and that's one thing that always comes up, I think, with cider as opposed to beer, is the stories and the people around it. And I think those are stories that people are becoming more interested in and want to hear and want to be a part of, rather than just latching on to something that's cool.
Well, I thought, I don't think it will, and I think the big problem with like beer compared to cider is the route of information. So like I was working in a pub years ago now when I started getting into craft beer, and I bought a book on hops and I took it into work and I was showing everyone, and no one knew what really made beer. They just knew beer as a thing that was made, as silly as it sounds. And here I am with my book of like, no, there's citra hops, and like the excitement of it and the buzz. And then you could get nerdy about that and go down that rabbit hole. But cider suffers from its simplicity from the outside. So a lot of people think that cider is all just made with apples. So the root of it is, isn't that big cider that I'm drinking just made out of apples anyway, the same as your artisanal one? And there's a disconnect there from the get-go. So it's an odd starting point. And then on top of it, you've got, is the craft sector a big enough slice of the pie for cider where it will make a dent? Like, are there enough cider drinkers at the start for then the niche cider, like the subgenre of it, to be worth the movement, if that makes sense? And those that have been drinking like traditional scrumpy and have been drinking small independent makers drinks without labels happily for years, they've been drinking like craft cider, but it all gets lumped into one thing. So will cider live and die by its comparison, or simply like just bob along without need for a prefix in its guise? Like, I just think as well, the economic reality with this year and Brexit will show strong shifts in the market, and it will make room, and it'll give some room for clarification on the drink. But I don't think that will shift more drinkers than is needed from beer and wine into the category. I just think that we're going to be more excited about our drink.
But do we need to pull people from other drinks? Because what you're looking at is a long game, and you're looking at people that actually don't fit into a category yet. I'm not saying you target underagers, but that's who you're looking at. People who aren't drinking yet. They don't have their drink. I mean, when I started drinking, I wasn't drinking craft beer or craft cider.
Yeah.
So I think there's gonna be, at the moment, we have to pull people from wine and beer into cider, because that's who we need to appeal to at the moment. But as cider grows, what will grow with it are the people who drink it and have always drank cider, and cider will be their first choice. It won't be that they've come from something else. It'll be that when they first started drinking, more cider was available to them in the bars and the shops that they drank in and shopped in. Therefore, they started their life as a drinker on cider, as opposed to being, well, I used to drink craft beer, but now that's, craft has, gone right inside itself so far up its own arse. It's insane. Or, I'm done with wine. I want to try something else. My vision is that there will be cider drinkers who are primarily cider drinkers, rather than beer or wine drinkers who occasionally will have a cider.
And I think if there isn't the opportunity for cider to achieve something akin to what beer achieved within the craft spectrum of things, then let's talk about the relative to the size of the category and to the popularity, etc. So if something happens, as is happening with cider at the moment, is it going to be, what was the actual language that was used here?
Shall we stare back?
Is it ready to explode out of its niche? No, it's not ready to explode out of its niche. Can Pete Brown's definition of craft apply to cider? I'm going to say yes, without having actually finished reading the book, which I am at the moment, but which is something made, he goes back to the roots of saying this is something actually made, effectively like by hand and with care, and is not just about aesthetics, but is about, actually having a strong control over this liquid, and there being variation and all of these kinds of things. So yes, cider can and is in a position where it's able to present itself as another drink that can confound expectations from what the majority of people think that drink is about, based upon the large proportion of mainstream drinks that are out there. And with the number of producers that there are now producing a quality of liquid, and you can take quality in many different ways, but let's call it, interesting or different and better than, possibly, compared to some of the mainstream competitors, presented increasingly in ways that appeal to more contemporary kinds of consumers, fewer tractors and, old yokels, etc. Then yes, it is definitely moving in a direction, and it is becoming more interesting. And some small proportion of beer drinkers and wine drinkers are understanding and turning on. Is it going to explode? Is it going to be massive? Is it going to be, in volume and value terms, what it is with beer? No, but I think the last time that I had a check, those, any kind of definition of what the creation of a craft beer category, a proportion of beer was something like 13 to 14%. So if craft cider, fine cider, artisan cider, small cider, interesting cider could occupy 10 to 15% of total cider category, I think that's the win.
Thanks, Gabe.
Cheers.
Well, that was the show. Tune in next time when we interview more people and drink more things and don't agree with Martin. Go to Neutral Cider Pod on Twitter and Neutral Cider Hotel on Instagram. And also we have a website, but it's a bit deficient at the moment.
Yes.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for joining in on another episode of the Neutral Cider Hotel. As you can tell, we have a lot of fun making this podcast, and much cider is poured, much mirth is had, and as we were saying, that during these challenging times, just having the opportunity to have good chats with, or bonkers chats with good people, and bonkers chats with bonkers people is a really, really good thing, and we're all appreciative of it. Thank you for listening. Hopefully you're still listening and didn't turn away earlier on.
Hopefully they're not drinking along. Fucking hell.
Drink along a Neutral Cider Hotel. It's like, you ever heard of like Drink Along a Dallas, like where you have a drink everybody so many times does on there. I can't even talk.
This is
Ladies and gents,
isn't it? Cider.
From everybody at the Neutral Cider Hotel, we're checking out, possibly permanently. Thank you very much for listening. We'll see you next time. All the best. Goodbye.
Bye.
For stupid listeners.